Welcome to The Real Deal On. This is my good friend David Dweck, otherwise known as Double D, the real estate renegade, who's also one of our revolutionaries. And in the idea of reinvention, maybe you could share a little bit of how, have you had to reinvent yourself?
Clearly. I wouldn't be here, I guess, if I didn't reinvent myself.
That's true. How many times would you say you've reinvented yourself?
You want the Reader's Digest version, or you want
we can
embellishment?
Embellish.
Okay. So you and I have
That's
similar...
enough.
Good. By the way, thanks for having me.
Okay. Yes, right.
So, as you know, our paths had similar... We had a similar path back in the day through music.
Yeah.
And originally I was not going to go to college. So I took some time off because I wanted to work in a recording studio.
Right.
So when everybody told me, you'll never get a job in a recording studio. And at 18 I said, watch me. I got not one, not two, but three. And I eliminated the two that I, thought were not going to be the right path for me. And I went with a company called Media Sound, located at 311 West 57th Street.
What were the other two? Do you remember the other two?
The other one was a Maury Brown studio where Kashif worked and Evelyn Champagne King worked. And the other one was the biggest jingle house in New York City, and I'm forgetting, Howard Schwartz.
Ah, okay.
And something like that. I'm going back a long time ago.
Yeah, for some reason I thought you had said Chung King. Was that one?
No.
Okay.
No. And it wasn't Wang Chung either. Anyway.
It's a real studio.
And I realized after having many brushes of greatness and ultimately going to the University of Miami to study music and ultimately getting my degree in communication and working at Media Sound for 4 summers and really enjoying my time there, that the life of a recording engineer was a very short life.
It could be, yeah.
And then, so that transitioned me to my communication degree, which I got from the University of Miami.
So you were commuting?
No, I lived there. I lived in Miami.
So the studio was down here?
Summer job. It became a summer job for me. No, New York City.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So you went
Correct.
up for the summers
Correct.
while you're, okay, got it.
Correct. So I worked there for 4 summers in essence.
Yeah.
And once I got my degree, I realized I could have gone back there, and I just couldn't, because it wasn't going to be the long-term solution. So my degree was in communication, and I pursued communication. And I had my own production company and so on and so forth, and realized that while I was passionate about it, and still am to this day, as you know, music and all that is passion, and one of these days I'll reinvent myself because I'm putting it out there that I'd like to be the announcer for the Miami Heat. Because, I got the pipes to do it.
So give us an example. What would be an announcement?
So let's go old school, okay?
Okay.
At center, number 33 from Georgetown, Alonzo Mourning.
Do they still do that?
Well, I do that.
You bringing it back?
Well,
Yeah.
Listen, Mike B is classics, Ladies and gentlemen.
Friday.
Oh, thanks. No, it's today, and today is. But you get the point.
Yeah. Well,
that'll be later on. But going back to giving up the broadcast career and realizing, okay, real estate's the path. I was a landlord when I was.
How long were you in communication before you made that shift?
At least 5 years.
Okay.
4 or 5
and what were you
years.
doing as?
I was working in radio.
Okay.
I was doing production and sales, and the radio down here, terrestrial radio, as you know, is today still volatile. Stations that have been around for the longest time. If you remember, Love 94, gone. Magic 102.7, gone. 103 She, gone. These were iconic.
Wow.
South Florida radio stations. Just like you go up to New York, any WFM, stuff we grew up on.
Yeah.
So I realized the real estate would be the long-term path for, to benefit my family and to create a lifestyle. Not, a lot of times people that have a job are just over broke, and I decided to take that entrepreneurial step. And at the time I was starting a family, and it was a very big risk to take. And I embraced that, and it didn't come without challenges.
Right. So before we get into that, I just want to just sort of make an observation as far as the context of this conversation. Could you have, at that time, knowing that I went through the music industry as well, kind of been a victim of the industry, where you could have been like, oh,
I could have played the victim, Doug.
Yeah.
I for sure, because the two guys, this is something you didn't know, the two guys that owned Media Sound were guys named John Roberts, God rest his soul, and Joel Rosenman. They both graduated from Wharton or University of Pennsylvania with degrees, and put a classified ad in the New York Times that said, "Young men with unlimited capital willing to finance legitimate business venture." That's the quote. What was that venture? They financed Woodstock.
Wow.
Those were my bosses.
Wow.
They sold the studio. They sold the studio in, give or take, 1983. And that's when the light bulb went off. If they're getting out, that's a sign.
Right.
When I saw great engineers, remember his name, Harvey Goldberg, who engineered the Ramones, and I played Miss Pac-Man with Joey Ramone, and it's good times. It was great, But I saw the writing on the wall. I don't think Harvey lasted that much longer, because the years, Yeah, I could have played the victim. Yeah, I had great moments. I didn't have the success that you had with Gold Records or anything like that. That was okay. I had a taste. I realized, I can't do this.
Right.
Not the right timing. And of course, obviously, technology changed everything else.
Well, and you could have played that card back when someone told you couldn't do it, that the industry is too difficult, you don't have the connections, you don't have, because everyone thinks that, while connections are vital, I totally agree.
Without a doubt.
That doesn't mean that they're not possible to experience and to connect, to make those connections. Someone started with no connection, and they barreled their way through, which is what you did.
I do barrel. I'm like a bull in a china shop.
I know.
Get out of my way.
But
it's a mindset.
Yeah, 100%.
Complete mindset, and there's, I wish I would have brought a reference book, because I could have read this great thing, but next time.
Okay. Well, you could share what it is, if someone wants to do it.
It's author unknown.
Oh,
I'd love to read it, and actually what I'll do
I
is
know that guy.
Yeah, I know you do. Probably know a few of them.
I don't get that much. All right, so you had an opportunity
By
to...
the way, just for the record,
Yeah.
I didn't get a memo that we're going black and blue today.
I got nothing. The universe provides.
Yes. Amen. Did you warn them that we're going to have some fun today?
Well, I think they may find that in general these are, Will, what do you think? Are they usually pretty fun, our conversations? Upbeat. Yeah, they're upbeat because, we want to make learning fun.
Yeah.
And the truth is that it doesn't matter whether you struggle with an addiction to substances, or if you struggle with an addiction to internet, food, whatever. The truth is what I guess I'm just noticing this. I don't think it's anything new, is that people get addicted to being a victim. They get addicted to the drama. They get addicted to these stories that we tell. And no one would have made you wrong. If someone told you can't get into the music industry, and then you didn't go for it, and then you were upset about it, though.
I'd be upset sitting here today.
Agreed, but even back then, people will be like, "Oh, I know, Dave, it's really tough out there. Yeah, I know, it's tough industry to break into."
Right.
And you could get something out of it. You'd have secondary gain to your failure.
Right. But by the way, the other thing to add to that is, I knocked on doors and I said, "I'm hungry, and I'm willing to work for no money.
That's what I did.
I'm willing to sweep floors."
Yeah.
And Media Sound said, "No, we'll pay you, and we're hiring you as the nighttime receptionist."
You're lucky.
So my first gig there was 4 to midnight. And I walk in a lot of good stuff happens in studios at night. I walk in for my 4 o'clock shift. I remember Lisa, the woman I replaced, she got off at 4. She goes, "You won't believe who's downstairs in Studio B." Who? Mick Jagger. So when Mick Jagger came up with Charlie Watts, I remember, it's surreal. And Mr. Jagger, it's an honor to meet you. You know, shake his hand. Can I get an autograph for my girlfriend, whatever? And he goes, "I will be at Siam Palace. If you call me if you need me, call over there to the restaurant."
Okay, yeah.
You know, no cell phones at that time.
Right, yeah.
So, but I got a taste of it,
Yeah.
and that was gratifying. And no regrets. No regrets. I sit here today, happy with my time that I had there.
Yeah.
So
100%. And then you transitioned, so you shared, then you went into real estate. And
Correct.
what year was that approximately?
Well, my son is 23, and I started about 25 years ago.
Okay.
Transitioning into full-time real estate
Did you
from
start
my
as
from my last job.
There you go.
And
Did you start as an investor,
I started as an investor, and then I got my real estate license in 1993.
So walk us through the same sort of mindset. What kind of conversations might some people have that you did not have
Okay,
to
so
to
here's
invest
a
for
voice
the
playing
first
in
time?
somebody's head that plays a lot. Oh, you can't make money in real estate. It's very risky.
Okay.
Oh, real estate's a hassle. All that noise.
Well, did you have money at that time?
I had a little money.
Okay.
Not much. But what I did was I strategized both short-term and long-term, realizing this will be my retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And so for every house that I bought, fixed, and sold, I also would take that money, reinvest it into a rental property, and get bank financing. Because right when I was transitioning, I still had a JOB, so I could still get a mortgage.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, after the crash, it's very difficult to get a mortgage.
Well, now, so we'll get
right,
there.
Right.
I'm just
But
saying.
even back then,
Oh,
it's
even
tough.
okay, yeah.
And-
Right, because it wasn't. You're not talking about in like 05 or 06
no.
when
Talking
basically are you breathing?
Yeah, right.
How much you need?
Right. Fog the mirror.
Yeah.
Here's your loan.
Yeah. Okay.
No. So in the mid '90s, it was you could get a mortgage, but there's a lot of red tape and
Yeah.
doable. So that's where it started.
So what did you, when you got some pushback? I'm sure there were some times where maybe a deal fell through, or it seemed like things weren't going the way you wanted to. How did you navigate?
So that's one of the reasons why I started the Boca Real Estate Investment Club, because there is really not a how-to manual for investors back in the day, especially down here in South Florida. It was kind of like the Wild Wild West, figure it out. Land trust, assignment of contracts, all these things that are an essential piece of what I do on a regular basis. So I studied with people who I really respected, and some of them mentored me, and I really believe in that. And as you know, we invest in our education all the time. And it's always great to have that person, that inspires you, that deals in reality, not in theory. Note to self, deal in reality, not theory. And
It's an interesting thing to straddle.
so that was where the path started. And then other challenges followed.
So before we get into, because we'll transition then into your equity funding.
Right.
But I just want to point out a couple of things, full disclosure. What Dave just shared as far as finding that opportunity, that mentor, the being coachable and trainable and so forth. David helped me with my first investment property, and I could have also come up with some stories. You were more than gracious with your support and went above and beyond. But that's who you are, and that's how you live your life. I mean,
Right.
you're a larger than life kind of guy, which is why I think we connect, because that's something I truly appreciate about you.
Right. Thank you.
And it almost made it too easy.
Well, I did for you, which I don't normally do.
I know you
full
did.
disclosure
Yes,
back.
I know you did what
Not-
we
not-
went way above and beyond.
However, you learned a lot along the way, and the next time.
I still had to take risk.
yeah,
I mean, it wasn't like you
listen,
did it for me.
There's a great saying that I think it's my friend Marshall Silver's: "No risk, no goodies."
Indeed.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And if you want to sit in that cubicle, and you're happy with that paycheck, and you're, but that's being normal, And typically in a situation like that, those normal people are not necessarily happy.
Maybe not. And that's an interesting point. Actually, I talked about that today, is that we're not here to judge anybody
No
as to where
judgment.
they're at.
And if you're happy, great.
Right, exactly. And if you're, like,
But
we're talking about the quality of
listen,
problems.
We challenge each other all the time.
Yeah.
And I compete with myself.
Right. Well, that's it.
My action list, whether it's daily, monthly, my goal list, that's me competing with me.
So why don't we, before we get into that, why don't we talk a little bit about your rituals? Like you talked about your daily, your competition with yourself. How do you set up your day for success? Because I know you're really busy. Thank you for taking your time out of that. I mean, I'm blessed to know you outside of here, and we still have a struggle to get time together. So really do appreciate.
Well, this
you
is
sharing.
important to me, and
you're going to help a lot of
it's
people.
important to me that I did this in a timely fashion. Before my travels next week, which I'm leaving the country, and don't worry, I'm coming back. Sorry. So, but what's interesting is I've learned to commit the time to the people and the things that are important to me.
Right.
And just like I tell my tenants, don't make your emergency my emergency. If there's an emergency, call 911. Don't get me involved in your drama because I'm not interested. And that's my standard speech to my new tenant. So they know I don't want to be bothered.
What a brilliant...
Because remember, in real estate and in life, the less I do, the less I care, the more I make. So if you have that attitude, then
and that. So in fairness to people who struggle, when people aren't at that mindset, they don't understand how to get to that mindset.
they need to get to that mindset.
Right.
Worry less. Here's a Dweckism. Note, first Dweckism of the day. I'm a winner, not a whiner. I'm a warrior, not a worrier.
Yep.
And if you embrace that mantra, your life will change.
And that drives worriers and whiners bananas.
Oh boy, does it ever. I drive those people crazy.
And that's
And a lot of
okay.
times, we just need to push them and give them a swift kick in the ass, and they'll get it.
Exactly, because when you can raise your standard, and what you shared earlier, like you made a commitment at a young age, like I'm not going to be, a slave to the grind. I'm not going to be working at a job. You made a commitment.
Well, I did.
No, for life, meaning
Correct.
that wasn't your career.
Absolutely.
What you're going to do for your eternity. Right. You made a decision. And by the way, going into music is also the same thing. Even if you had a job
right.
at a studio, that's kind of a different
It's interesting.
thing.
Like, I'm going to pick a specific profession. Lawyers. Attorneys and lawyers typically grind so hard that in many cases their lives are messes. They neglect their family, they neglect their health, they hit the booze, they hit the whatever it is.
Then they bail themselves out through their connections. And,
and it's,
I said that out loud.
You did.
So.
Rewind.
Yeah.
Delete. Erase.
Cancel.
Anyway, but I just happen to think of some of the attorneys, thankfully, and we know some attorneys in common, that they know how to balance and live a healthy lifestyle and not let their practice control them.
Well, so this gives you a great example of getting a little bit in context of addiction and so forth. Those who have that balance, they don't say, I am a lawyer. They know when to act as one, to behave as one. But when we hang out with our attorney friends, for the most part, they don't behave as lawyers when we hang out. They're just hanging out and doing their thing and supporting and loving on each other. And when the people who struggle, if they say, I am a litigator, they come home and what do they do with their family? Litigate. Because that's who they are.
Right.
And it's so other than conscious. They don't even realize it.
Right.
That's what's going in their heads. And that's where the whole victim mindset as well can come in, is there's plenty of evidences to show how we've been wronged, right? So we could actually use the example of you transitioned into or adding to your repertoire the private funding.
Private equity funding was something that, there was a niche that I could fill. And I started doing that.
So why don't you explain what that
Oh,
means?
sure. That's I do basically investment loans to real estate investors.
Which are short term.
Short term on investment property. And that's
Right.
my little niche. And there's competitors. And, you know, what fuels my fire is, you know, like every day I'll do some personal development in the morning. I'll exercise like this morning. I took a picture of the sunrise on the beach because I was running there. I did not put it up, but I had it because it was something,
Yeah.
you know, I wanted to capture that image. I read, and I had a closing, and this closing, you know, one of the beautiful things about what I do, Doug, is no 2 days are alike.
Right.
I met the client, they came in from New York. He gave me, you know, we funded a deal here, a really nice deal. And then he, you know, said, hey, I have another opportunity for you. So to me, my day was made before lunch. I'm here on an adrenaline high because I love what I do. And we left the closing table. When you negotiate, I like a win-win. I don't want to walk away from the negotiating table and say, great, I just screwed Doug. Great. No, I want you to feel good. I want to feel good. Left the closing table feeling great. I couldn't reach you for lunch because I had lunch with my banker. We had a great lunch. I'm here. I'm here knowing that I don't have any other commitment. I wanted to clear my schedule to take whatever time I needed with you. So I'm in control of my destiny. I'm fortunate. I don't take it for granted, but that's by design.
Right.
So I've done so many things. The only thing I didn't do today was anything spiritual. I didn't meditate. But
It's still
it's not too
early
late.
yet.
It's not too late. So I could go home and meditate if I want. You know, every night when I lay my head on the pillow, I say a little prayer, one of the most important Hebrew prayers, the Shema Yisrael, and that's every night. So every day's got a balance to it, and it's got you know, different dynamics that keep me really positive and full of fuel.
And when you did the private equity, what year did you do that? Start that?
I started lending probably about 15 years ago.
So that was again before the
Correct.
before the crash, the
Correct.
real estate. So for those of
I
you
know where you're
I'm sure
going.
watching,
By the way, I know where you're going.
You're right. I'm laying it
make this
down.
perfectly
Pick
clear.
it up. So, in that, how did you navigate your way? I'm sure you saw it coming. I'm sure you also lived through it.
So
Obviously,
here's
and you're
another
still doing
surreal
it.
moment.
Yeah.
I'm on the CNBC show Power Lunch in one of my rehabs in 2006, over 10 years ago. And Bill Griffith, who still does the show, he said, so David, how do you see the market? And this is my answer. And sure enough, starting in 2007, the sky started to fall. Now, I've shared my story with you. I'll share a shorter story here.
Okay.
So I want you to picture that in 2007, things are starting to crumble and going on a downward spiral. And at the same time, my long-term marriage, you know, when your business is suffering, you want that life partner not only behind you, but beside you.
Yeah.
And I did not have that. And that really hurt. So I had to dig in deep because in 2008, it was on.
Yeah.
And I was coming into the office every day and doing damage control, watching the relationships that I have built and watching people suffer. And one of my dear friend for a long time, I'm crediting him because he was worth at one time $60 million and was in the program, lost it all,
Wow.
and never went back to using.
Did
not.
Great.
I'm thinking, okay, he's $60 million. Poof. I'm thinking, wow, the sky's falling. I'm I'm like mystified.
And how much were you leveraged at the time? How much did you have?
So thankfully, I was always conservative and never risked to the point where another friendly competitor of mine who I just spoke to recently, he's finally getting out of it. Almost 10 years later. His portfolio was $18 million and $12 million of it went bad.
Wow.
But he had the resilience to stay the course.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, when it's hitting the fan, and I said, do I hang it up? Do I just call it a day and reinvent? And the answer I answered myself, and that answer was a resounding no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to dig in so deep that whatever it takes, I'm going to find solutions. And one of the people that stuck by me was in my office today. Her name is Joan. Her late husband was my first hard money lender over 20 years ago.
Wow.
When he passed away, he said, you take care of Joan. And I said, Joan, this is during the recession. Don't panic. I'll get you through it. Just hang in.
Mm. Was she still doing lending through you?
To this day, she's still doing lending. And we had challenges during that time. But I got her through it. The thing, what's interesting is, first, when things are not going well, that's when you really know who your friends are. Because I called a friend and I said to him very clearly, Cubby, I need to come over and borrow $30,000 now. And he said, come over. And I paid it back.
Yeah, you had shared that the other
Yep.
night. Yeah, and,
Yep.
and he said he was expecting it
Right.
as a gift. And-
Right. So, you never forget these challenges and how you are able to arise through the challenge. Now, there's another thing that I want to just point out, because it's not only in business, it's also in personal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go back to when I was 18 years old, and when I was working at Media Sound, I used to have to shuttle tapes back in the day.
2-inch
digital,
tapes, yeah.
2-inch tapes, whatever. Shuttle them to another studio for mastering, whatever. Remixing, blah blah blah. Go to Power Station, wherever I had to go. Go to A&R, blah 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 blah. I was running in the city. And I was running, taking the subway, running, because time is of the essence. Studio time is big money. I fell, and I dislocated my shoulder.
Ooh.
I go to the orthopedist, and he said, "You need surgery." I looked at the doctor and said, "I'm not having surgery. I'm just not." To this day, I never had surgery, never needed it. It's mindset. If I had no other choice, but I said I'm going to strengthen my shoulder, and lo and behold. So all this builds up that resilience. And by the way, a great book to read is Alonzo Mourning, who I mentioned earlier. His book, Resilience. I was at his book signing here, and he's an amazing icon and a great human being. And his story is amazing.
Check it out.
So, resilience.
So would you say resilience was definitely a mindset you've had? What are some other...
Resilience and courage.
Courage. And so we had a conversation about this the other night. What is courage for you?
Can I get a little colorful?
Please.
Balls.
Okay. Courage is balls.
Okay? It is. And that applies to men and women. Doesn't matter. And kids.
Mm-hmm. For
And
sure.
I think you really have to have a lot of self-belief, and have the courage to not just try, but really go for it. And, when you believe in yourself and you really believe you can do something, I'll give you an example. I'm not a great basketball player. I love the sport. I love to play. I know what I'm good at.
Basketball ain't one of them.
Well, no. I've never been a good shooter. Now, other people can say, I can think, I'm not a good shooter. I should hang it up. I should not play. I shouldn't play ball. No, but I'll box you out. I'll defend you. I may out-rebound you. So I look at the stuff that I'm good at.
Play on your strengths.
You read my 5-head. You know what that is?
Uh,
One bigger than forehead.
yeah.
You have hair, so you can't even. You know, I don't think you can do 5 fingers there. Can you?
I could do 2 hands. I got one of those
Whoa, you
huge
got 10 head?
foreheads. I got a 10 head, whether you like it or not. Isn't that embarrassing? I can beat your 5 head with hair.
Yes, but I made you fumfer.
Fumfer.
You fumfered the 4 and 5 head.
I'm feeling much better now.
Oh, good. After you fumfered?
Yes. I'm seeing a doctor about this.
The fumfering?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you explain that?
Well, you just
tell the
do
doctor.
it.
Don't tell me.
Yeah. It's a personal issue.
I understand. HIPAA laws and all that stuff.
Yep. So when it comes to the underlying thing, which I'm reading a little bit between the lines, but there's 2 things that I've been noticing that you have shared, and it's something because we talk about teamwork a lot, and we're part of a mastermind and blessed to be part of it. And we are a team, but one of the reasons I think that makes any team extraordinary is the individual team of one. And while I look to you in many respects to be an accountability buddy of sorts, what you shared earlier is the ultimate accountability buddy, yourself.
That's correct.
Integrity.
Yes.
Integrity, that you make a declaration, you make a statement, you say, I'm going to make this happen, and then you just do.
Yeah.
And then there's an undercurrent.
And by the way, we could fail doing it.
Oh, yeah. But that doesn't mean a
at
failure
least
is
we did
just
it.
yeah, but it's not even a failure. It's just a sort of, I don't know, a pause.
Right. Or a bump in the road.
Bump in the road. It's a learning. It's an opportunity to learn. And unfortunately, people sometimes, because they don't have there's an undertone to the courage where it's more than the balls. It's the understanding and the acknowledgement, the peace of knowing they can figure it out.
Yes, it's true.
And that's a foundation. That's power.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, if I fail, that doesn't mean I am a failure. It means I learned a lesson.
Yes. And I think also you teach your children at a young age, like I know you're teaching Ellie. Like I remember when I got a piece of technology, a new piece of technology, I'd give it to my son. Hey, I haven't figured this out. He wouldn't even read the manual. Just bloop, and he was young.
Yeah.
You know, whether he was building Legos and, you know, empowering those young ones.
Yeah.
You know, hey guys, you want to come home for spring break? Good. Book your flights, pay back, figure it out.
Well, and what a beautiful thing as well is it's that empowerment. It's learning you've empowered yourself.
Right.
Like you didn't allow the stories other people were sharing about the music industry, about real estate, about lending, about the crash.
I go back to basketball. And Coach Eric Spoelstra, who I hope gets Coach of the Year, I had the pleasure of meeting him once, and he's young. He's 42 or 43 now. He started at 37. And he has taught his team well to tune out the noise. And I love that expression.
Yeah.
You know, there could be noise from coworkers, from friends, from family, and it could be, you know, and you're in your own head.
Yeah.
Tune out your own noise. And sometimes it's just great, you know, whatever it is, whether you do yoga or meditate, just to breathe and find that peace and have that self-belief in that you can do this.
Yeah.
Put your mind to it, put your full, you know, all your energy, and make it happen.
It's simple, not easy. And that's where I think we've been conditioned, where we think it should be easy. And simplicity, all that means is it's elegant.
Yes.
We complicate things because
unnecessarily.
And it's a blessing and a curse, because the ability to take something simple and complicate it, we could also use to take something complicated and make simple. But because we're so conditioned, because we have so much noise going on, sometimes we allow that stuff.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting, and I tell people this, you know, we both use social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you that we're both clearly not addicted to social media. Just like I'm not addicted to this thing. When we're here, you know what? I really don't care about that.
Yeah.
Because what I care about is being in the moment with you.
Right.
And I am concerned that in this age of technology and social media, people are not going to be able to have a conversation like we're having.
Already.
It is. And be able to focus and be in that moment.
Yeah.
I tell people, be in the moment. You know, if you're at a concert, what are you doing? Just, oh, I got a video of this. It's like, oh my, okay, maybe video a snippet.
Yeah, just to
But
share.
I mean,
have.
okay,
for,
right, but hey, be in that moment and enjoy
Which
the
is so
moment.
interesting is that our brains are recording
Yes.
already. So you don't have to watch it again if you
Yeah.
condition yourself. I mean, that's what learning is
Right.
taking that information, processing it, and putting it in a way that we
Yeah.
can access.
Yeah.
So now, we're gonna have. I'm gonna ask. I'm sure he'll do it. His name's Scott Klosowski, and he is this like tech genius. He's a futurist, brilliant guy. He wrote a book called "Did God Create the Internet?" And his whole thing. He does a lot of brilliant marketing, and all that, and he talks about how.
You know, first of all, let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
You know Al Gore created the internet.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't God. I know. That's why but he posed the question.
Yeah.
You know, just to get,
just for the record.
For the controversy, right? He just wanted people to be like, oh, I thought it was Al Gore, and then
Okay.
But he talks about how we've become so reliant on this technology that it's a second brain. That we think about it. Critical thought. It's so important that we do the things that create some critical thought, some presence, because now, and I'm guilty of it though. I will say that I will Google stuff. You know,
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't go to the library.
Don't feel
they still
guilty.
make them.
Wait a minute. Why feel guilty?
I just point out the knowing that could be the habit, right? That I may not be accessing, maybe information I should probably have access
I
to,
admit,
and I've gotten lazy.
But no, I admit that I Google stuff. I did so today. I heard a particular song, and I wanted to see what album that song was.
You mean you didn't know?
I didn't.
He'll call me. He'll quote a line. The other day, he quoted a line from Frank Zappa, and I didn't know it, and I was in trouble. So I went.
You should have used those zircon encrusted tweezers.
So yeah, I feel I was embarrassed to not know the song.
But the Sugar Plum? Was that the one?
No, it's
oh no, it was the other one.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
We have to keep it rated G.
yeah.
By the way, point of reference, and I'm forgetting the name of the documentary that was released, but I saw it in New York City last year with my son. The Frank Zappa documentary. His view. I mean, he's passed away. He's been gone some time. This documentary was probably 20 years.
Oh, about the music industry, where it was going. Yeah, I read that. I didn't see the.
You got to see the documentary.
Okay, yeah.
He was an amazing individual. God rest his soul.
So one of the documentaries, I don't know if you've seen yet, and we'll have Dion as well, is We Are Twisted Effing Sister. Did you see it yet?
Apparently he lives down here.
No, D doesn't.
Yeah. I just had lunch with somebody yesterday. He said he saw him.
He may be down here. I haven't spoken to him.
All right.
But
Well, anyway.
Yeah. Joe's coming. Joe Franco's. He's
Got
coming. He'll be on the show too. But D, if you watch We Are Twisted Effing Sister, that chronicles from like zero to hero. It chronicles from when they were nobody, when D wasn't even in the band,
Right.
to the highlight of Stay Hungry, like just that time frame. And almost everything you just said right now, D will say in a similar kind of way, as far as accessing that certainty, that confidence, but having that piece of knowing that he can just make it happen. And they were thrown incredible odds, just like you just shared, where could have been any excuse to let it go. Like even to the point where the label that actually signed them told the A&R guys, if you sign this band, you are fired.
Really?
And that was the label. They got signed by Atlantic anyway.
So, similar story with Aerosmith. So, if you remember, they had...
And we're going to go see Richie Supa on
they had
Monday.
serious addiction problems to the point where they were broke.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine went to, and I remember him telling the story, they got resurrected when they did the cover of Walk This Way, with Run DMC. Mm-hmm. That was their...
In the 80s, yeah, like 86
Well, that's when they started to come back again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They pull up to the premiere party in like an old beater car.
Because that's all they had.
Because they were broke.
Yeah.
But they came back, and they came back bigger. Even though...
Reinvention.
It's reinvention. And they reinvented in their own industry. And, I prefer, Rocks and Toys in the Attic to more. But the other stuff, I mean, Janie's Got a Gun and all this other, it's good stuff.
Well, that was what was going to happen musically at the
Right.
time anyway.
Right. But the bottom line is they reinvented and endured, and I believe stayed clean.
And so, and one of the things that we talk about, I know we get the, Tony Robbins talks about this as well, is about raising your standards, about you only get what you tolerate.
Right.
And
by the way, I love, the way you can just delete the negative people from your cell phone and from your life.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not supportive, if they're not embracing, and if they're trying to pull you down, then just get rid of them. I mean, we've all had to do that.
And you can still care for them. If they're family members,
Yes.
you still care for them, love them, and all
Right.
that. But you say, look, you're not renting space in my head. You're
Right.
you're
No
not supporting,
way.
bringing it down. But here's the thing. I rarely say but here's the challenge. They got to know, and we let them know. Like, look, if you want to come on this train, you're more than welcome. But there's a
Right.
dress code.
Yes.
And that dress code is the mindset, is the attitude where you're not stinking up the joint.
Right.
Like, you got to shower energetically. You got to.
There's a great Springsteen song. This train is for, it names everybody. Whores and gamblers. This train's for losers and winners, saints and sinners. Great song.
Okay.
So everybody's welcome, but don't take up the space if you're not going to be,
Contributing.
correct.
If you're not adding value,
Right.
there's either way you're gonna pay.
Yes. You may pay dearly.
Yeah. So, what final advice might you have for somebody just looking to transform, to reinvent, to find a way to whatever their destiny is?
Well, don't have limiting beliefs. That's key.
Okay. So, what would be an example of a limiting belief that one might have?
I can't do this.
Okay. No, go ahead. You could try.
Okay, thanks. So eliminate that.
Mm-hmm.
Perseverance. Perseverance is, I have another Dweckism. This is number 2. Pleasant persistence wears down resistance. Pleasant persistence wears down resistance. Kill them with honey.
Yeah.
And use your personality, use your smile. And, things happen. Doors will open. Have a mentality of abundance, not of scarcity. Be a giver. Be a giver. Also have the ability to receive, but be a giver. I mean, I've seen you give and give, and I give and give. And, it's part of our DNA.
Yeah.
And I'll never stop that. I treat the charity, that's charity work, and the business is business. And when you do good, you're blessed.
And interesting, when you do good, you feel good, not the other way
Oh,
around.
do you? Do you
Most
ever?
people try and feel good, and then they'll do good.
Right.
And it's,
Do good first.
yeah. Do it,
Right.
and then, it's actually be it. That's where the belief comes in.
Right.
Be it, which will allow you to do it, and then you get to feel it. Now, sometimes you may have to put yourself into that state in order
Right.
to do that, because if you've got a limiting belief that's keeping you back, and then you say, I can't do that, and then you feel
Right.
non-resourceful, you may have to prime yourself.
Yeah,
And that's how you build the momentum.
I talked about basketball. As you know, I sing in my choir, and I'm one of the few people that don't use a book. I'll do it by ear, and I know where my limitations are. When I play drums, my favorite drummer is John Bonham. If I can swing as hard as he can and have that feel and have that syncopation, great. I know what my limitations are. But like, if we're playing the ocean, and I can, there's a bridge to that tune. If I can get those changes right, man, do I feel great. It's not going to happen every time.
And it still feels great, even if
Doesn't
you
matter.
don't.
I
Right,
tried,
exactly.
and whatever. I know my limitations, and I feel good doing it.
Well, and ultimately, I guess that's the message I'm also getting from you right now, to, if I may interpolate a little bit, is you don't do the things to feel some way. You feel that way anyway, and while you're doing it, you're enjoying the process.
Yeah, you got blisters to show it.
Yeah. So, again,
I got blisters on my fingers. That's a
what was that from? Oh no, I'm thinking of the thing about the dancing. What is it?
You're gonna pay for not knowing this.
Am I?
Oh,
You're older than me. Is it? I hope it's older.
does it really matter?
I don't know.
No, it doesn't. Age is just a number, pal.
I know. So
Can't believe you just went there.
I did. I had to, because you were shaming me on camera.
No shame. Ain't no shame in my game.
So now, what was that? Oh, I got blisters on me fingers. That was from. Oh,
Not me fingers, my.
maybe
I
that-
got blisters on my fingers.
I don't recall.
Okay.
Are you just gonna let it sit there?
Yeah, sure
All right,
am.
so Google it.
You're gonna use Google right after this.
I'm gonna. But there's also when I got blisters
like
on my
bugging you.
fingers. It's Bugs Bunny.
No.
All right, so we'll come back to that.
Okay.
So,
You're not gonna let that go.
no. In closing,
Yes.
what would be a final bit of advice to someone to live an extraordinary life through their reinvention, to avoiding the traps of the victim addiction?
Tune out the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Stop your limiting beliefs, and go for it.
Boom.
Okay.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
You're
Thank
right.
you.
I don't care what they say about you.
Hey,
I
I'm
mean,
tuning out that noise.
That's right. Apply it. That's right. You
Yes.
don't just train it.
Yes.
You just don't talk it. You walk it.
I do.
Amen, brother.
You gotta, you better, if you're talking the talk, you better walk the walk. It's interesting, when it comes to real estate, a lot of people are out there training, and they're charging lots and lots of money. Ask them how many deals they've done themselves.
Right.
It's interesting. So, and the other thing is, do it so it feels good. Feels good while you're doing it. And, hang with the people, whether it's personal or business, that you know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride, because every day is a different, for me, it's a different ride.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to be here until last week.
Right.
I came in cold, not knowing what even we were going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's spontaneous, and it's in the moment,
Yep.
and I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
It's my honor and pleasure. So with that being said, that was The Real Deal on Double D, the real estate renegade revolutionary.
Woo, yeah.
That's a mouthful,
Thank you. That was nicely done.
wasn't it?
Yeah. Maybe you should go into broadcasting.
I can. I've done some.
I'm sure you have.